Hare Krishna, thank you for joining the Sunday discussion on Bhagavad Gita from Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir. So before we start, we'll chant Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajjana Ranjana Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prahlad Narsimha Jaya 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 Prahlad Narsimha Prahlad Narsimha Jaya Prahlad Narsimha Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gauranga ki Jai, Shri Nivas Govinda ki Jai, Shri Prahlad Narsimha Dev ki Jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So before we start, we'll invoke the holy auspicious name of the Lord. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. So welcome all once again. So today we'll be discussing from the ninth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll be discussing text 11. So the ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the chapter is the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna is revealing the most confidential knowledge to Arjuna. And in this verse, Krishna actually talks about a kind of people who deride him. So I'll recite the verse few times and then we'll discuss further about the verse. Avajananti mamuda manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. I'll recite again. Avajananti mamudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. I'll recite once more. Avajananti mamudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Hare Krishna. So I'll read the synonyms. Avajananti, deride. Mam, me. Mudaha, foolish. Manushim, in a human form. Tanum, body. Ashritam, assuming. Param, transcendental. Bhavam, nature. Ajanantaha, not knowing. Mama, mine. Bhuta, everything that be. Maheshwaram, supreme proprietor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So I'll repeat the translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet, there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna, he is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishvaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Satchidananda, non-material. So it's a long purport. So what I was thinking is, we can discuss few points that Prabhupada mentions here, and then we can continue reading further in the purport and discuss further. So here, uh, in this verse, Lord Krishna is declaring a particular aspect of people who don't know him, and in this case, he's using very strong words. He's saying, "Avajananti mam mudha." Avajananti means actually deride, look down upon, like ridicule or make it a very trivial affair. And when people do that to Krishna, what do they do? Manushim tanumashrita. They are actually confused. Manushim means human. Tanum means body. Ashrita means accepting, assuming that form. And then param bhavam ajananto. Param means the supreme, the transcendental bhavam, nature. Ajananto. Ajanantaha means not knowing. Mama, me, bhuta, everything that be Maheshwaram, the supreme proprietor. So Krishna here is saying that the fools, they don't know Krishna and they deride him. They consider him like an ordinary person. And they, why? Because they're confused because the Lord appears like one of us in the human form. And then they don't know his superior nature. So actually, what does this form of a human being mean, right? So we see that though Lord Krishna was present 5,000 years ago, there is a historical evidence. He has spoken the Bhagavad Gita, and a lot of information is available. Still, even when Lord Krishna was present, not many people knew that he was the supreme Lord. Our Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he explains, and we know from the Mahabharata and so many other Vedic literature that actually there were only a handful of people who knew that Krishna was Lord. So he was the supreme Lord. He was the supreme creator. He is God himself. He was walking around and he was around all the people among the population. But not many people knew that he was the supreme Lord. Barely few people like the Pandavas knew, the Bhishma knew, Kunti Devi knew. So like this, there are very few saintly and very advanced devotees who knew that Krishna was Lord. But everyone else, they thought that he was just another of us. Now, here in this ninth chapter, Prabhupada is saying that from the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like human being, is not a common man. So, from the previous verses of what Lord Krishna himself said, it actually becomes clear that he is not an ordinary common man. So let's quickly look at what are the various things Krishna mentioned. Right, this is the 11th verse. If you see few verses ago, Krishna actually mentions some details about himself. He says, "By me in my unmanifested form," in the fourth verse, "this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them." So here is one of the first thing Krishna is saying, about the confidential knowledge. He's saying, "By me in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded." See, pervasion means it is all over. And what? Krishna's unmanifested form. So Krishna has various energies. And one of the energy is his internal energy or his expansions. He is spread all over the universe. And he's saying all beings are in me. Right? If Krishna, his presence is spread all over the universe, he has his energies all over. So what does it naturally? Everything is in him, isn't it? All beings are in me. And then he says, "But I am not in them." Why? Because those are his energies, and through his energies he is pervaded, he is all over there, but he is not in them. The Acharyas give a very classic example, like the sunlight. Sun is a very wonderful example. The sun is in a particular place, but its light is pervaded all over, isn't it? So in the same, just because the sunlight has entered my room, I can't say that the sun is in my room, right? In the same way, if the sun, a material element, a material object, can actually, express such a presence, why can't the Supreme Lord, who is the creator of all creations? In the same way, the Lord and his energies are present everywhere. At the same time, he is not in them. He is individual. He is again separated. Right? And that's what he continues in the next verse. He says, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. See, again, he's making a distinction. And then he says, behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. So Krishna is explaining about his various energies. So Krishna has his personal form and his energies. Just like the sun has its own form, there is a dimension, isn't it? But then its energies are spread all over the world, right? All over the universe, actually, the sunlight wherever it can go. In the same way, there is an individual existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then his energies that are spread all over. Right? So Krishna is further saying in the next verse to make it more clear. How is it? Right? He's giving an example of the wind. He says, as the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. He's again giving another example. Like in the space, there is wind all over, right? In the same way, all beings, just like there is wind everywhere, in the same way, all beings are in me, in his energies. So, in further like this, he goes on saying in the next few verses, then he talks about this total material creation. He says, "O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature." So we all know, from the earlier verses that this earth, this whole material creation goes into cycles of coming into appearance and total dissolution, and again coming into appearance and again dissolution. So this goes on repeating. And then what happens? Krishna is saying, actually, all this total, every whole energy, when it completely gets dissolved, it actually enters into his nature. So there are so many expansions, so many ways the Lord is acting. And then again, he's saying, at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. And then he's further saying, the whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, it is manifested again and again. And by my will, it is annihilated at the end. So now Krishna is saying that the total cosmic manifestation is under his control. And everything is happening by his will. It will come into existence and it will again be completely annihilated by his will. And then he's saying, in this way, this world, this material world, it is by my will it is manifested again and again, and by my will it is annihilated at the end. And finally, he concludes in the previous verse. He says, Maya dakshena prakriti shruyateta sarasaram. He says, under my direction, Maya adakshena, on my direction, this whole material world is functioning. And then by my rule, by my direction, everyone, all living beings come into existence, and again everyone will be totally annihilated. So these are the kind of activities Krishna is mentioning about himself. So now, any of these mentioned, do we think we can apply to a common man? Can a common man say he has his presence everywhere? Right? Now, if there is a webcam somewhere, then you can tap into it and you can see if something is happening there. Right? Nowadays, there are these security cameras devices through your smartphone. You can access. You have some presence in some area. You can see like that. But can any one person say he can access every part of the total creation and he's pervaded and he's actually present? That means present means what? You should know everything that's happening there. Right? Can any common man say that? Can any common man actually say that he is the one who is creating the entire universes and again he is dissolving them and everything is happening under his direction, right? So Krishna, when he's talking about himself, he's revealing the various aspects of his functioning and how he manages material world. And but then people who don't know, they think Krishna is a common man. Why? Because he's appearing like one of the common persons. So that is what Krishna is saying here. Unfortunately, they are only fools who say that. Krishna is using a strong word. He's saying, Avajananti ma muda. Mudaha means fool. So he's saying only fools will deride me. Only fools will say that, oh, I am just a common man. Because unfortunately, this has happened. Krishna spoken this 5,000 years ago. There are commentations of Bhagavad Gita. There are some Sanskrit scholars who actually say, oh, Krishna was just a normal common man. he was very highly intellectual, and he attained some levels of realization. That is why he was able to speak Bhagavad Gita. So they completely minimize his position. They say, oh, we also can become like Krishna. So they say these kind of things, which is very unfortunate. How can anybody become like Krishna, or how can anybody become Krishna? And God is not a position or a designation that somebody can take on. Even a simple dictionary meaning, God means the supreme being. So one is either God or he's not God. You can't say I will become God. There are some people, some meditational process. They say when you meditate and when you advance in your thing, you will become God. They say God is not so cheap. Prabhupada used to say. And in the same, the example of Krishna in his own life, we see that God, Krishna did not do any meditation to become God. He was God from the time he appeared, and he was God from the till the time he left his pastimes in this world. It's a well-known fact. It's a documented thing in the Vedic literature, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that when Lord Krishna appeared, from the womb of Devaki, immediately he showed his four-handed form, Narayana form, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. What is the four-handed Narayana form? Narayana is holding Shankha, conch, Chakra, the disc, Gada, the club, and Padma, the lotus flower. And he's a four-handed form, and he's the whole description is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. How wonderfully he was, decorated with golden, ornaments, armlets, helmet, earrings, right, anklets, and everything. He had a Vaijanti mala, and he was wearing, yellow-colored clothes. The whole description is given, and he appeared. And then, why did he appear? Because Vasudeva and Devaki, they were so much under anxiety that Kamsa was one by one, he was killing every child that was born to them. And Krishna, to give them, to console them, that don't worry, now that I have appeared. Don't think that again Kamsa will come and again, take this child from your hand and he will kill. Now the solution to your problems have appeared. I will now solve all these problems. So, which ordinary common man have you ever heard that after birth he has immediately shown his four-handed form? Where did Krishna have time to do some meditation to become God at that point of time? He was just born, isn't it? And then when he was just a month or so old, he killed Putana. That's also another documented, in the Vedic literature. It is mentioned clearly that the Putana, the witch, had come to kill Krishna. She smeared poison on her breast, and she wanted to give milk to Krishna with the poison smeared breast. So she wanted to, Kamsa sends Putana to kill all young children because Krishna might be born and is there somewhere. But what happened? Krishna was just a few months old, and when he sucked the milk, he sucked the life air out of Putana. So where did Krishna get time to do meditation and become God? Right? Just by analyzing the real features of God, we will know God is not something that somebody will become. God is always God. Right? There's a definition of God. It is said Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Ekoya Bahunam Vidadati Kaman. Nitya means eternal. Chetana means conscious. Nitya Nityanam. There is one eternal being and there are so many eternal beings. And Chetanaha means conscious. There is one conscious being and there are so many conscious beings. But what is the difference between this one eternal conscious being and so many eternal conscious beings? Ekoya Bahunam Vidadati Kaman. This one eternal conscious being is managing and is taking care and is sustaining the entire remaining, conscious and eternal beings. And that is the situation. That is what we just read earlier about Krishna mentioning. He's sustaining this entire universe. He's managing this entire universe. He's directing in a way for the creation to happen, for the manifestation to happen, again for dissolution and total annihilation. That is what God is. Nobody can become God. There is only one God, and He is the Supreme Lord, and everyone else are His subordinates. Krishna says clearly that Aham Bija Pradapitaha. I am the seed-giving Father. Right? Today is Father's Day. In so many places there is a celebration. Children are appreciating their fathers, giving some gifts and things like that. But on this Father's Day, it is worth spending a moment to understand who is actually our real father. Right? Yes, we all have fathers. They're all technically known as biological father. Right? In this life, we were born because of a father. We have a father who has taken care of us. But then, if we take the total big picture, it is a very short span of our existence. of our eternal life, we take many lives, many births, many deaths, many fathers, many mothers we have. Every life we will have one father, one mother. But what is this father and mother doing? They are actually giving us the material body. But our own existence, the soul, the Atma, is transmigrating in so many bodies, so many lives it is living, but it has an eternal existing existential life. Who is the source of that? Where did we come into existence? Yes, the body is being facilitated by the father and mother, and we are taking birth in the body. We are living in the body, and at death, what happens? Tata dehantara prapti. The soul is leaving the body. So where what is the origin of the soul? Who is the father of the soul actually? Right? It's just like a drama actor. Every day he's playing a different role, in the drama. So one day, he's playing as a king, so he has as a prince, he has a king father and a queen. The other day he's playing a role of a common man, he's an ordinary man and ordinary woman, like different roles, right? It's like role play. But who is actually his father? That Krishna says. He says, Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya. Of all the species, oh, son of Kunti, Murtayaha Sambhavanti. It is all possible. All species of life are actually made possible by me. Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya Murtayaha Sambhavanti. Tasham Brahma Mahadyoni Aham Bija Pradapitaha. Krishna is saying of all the species of life that is actually happening and possible in this total material manifestation, I am the seed giving father. So our real father is Krishna. So if you really want to celebrate Father's Day today, yes, definitely we should appreciate our parents, our fathers, who have given us an opportunity in this life and everything. Definitely, the due respect definitely should be given, but we should also spend a moment to understand that from the wisdom of this Bhagavad Gita, from the statements of Krishna, that Krishna is our real father, our original father. So we should also show some gratitude to the Supreme Lord, because the current father and mother we have, we will not have gotten them without the mercy of Krishna. Because the Lord just said He is the one who is facilitating everything, right? So that is why sometimes Krishna is known as Param Pitamaha. He is the original father. He is the greatest great grandfather. Right? So this Father's Day, we should take some time to appreciate the Supreme Lord also, who has given us, who is our real Father and who has given us everything that we are experiencing in this life. And He has also given us this divine knowledge, this Bhagavad Gita, with which we can actually make an ultimate solution to all the problems of this material existence. So Krishna is the supreme father. So nobody can become father. Does it make sense if few children get together and say, "Oh, one of you do something, you will become father"? No, father is father, child is child. The child can never, take up his father's position. He will never become like that, isn't it? It is common sense. So in that way, so it is when we take all this into consideration. Now, what Krishna says, it doesn't seem like an overstatement at all. Definitely, one has to be foolish to think that he is God or Krishna is a very common man. Right, back to the point of becoming God by doing some meditation. Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill when he was 7 years old. So when he was 7 years old, he didn't have any time again to do some meditation or some processes to become God. Right. So it is by evidence and by authorities we know that Krishna is God and he is not a one of the common person. Now, when Krishna is saying Tanu Mashrita, Manushim Tanu Mashrita, taking the form of a human body, now Krishna's body looked very much like a common person's body, isn't it? The two-handed form, two hands, two legs, looks very much like us. Now there is a clue why, is Krishna looking like us or we look like Krishna? Is then the question becomes. Actually, it is not that Krishna is looking like us. We are the one who look like Krishna. Krishna has the original form, and that is mentioned here. His form is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. The definition of Krishna is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, the definition of God. Who is the supreme God? It is said, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He says Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. As we just read here in the purport, there are so many controllers, right? Prabhupada in the purport is giving example of, in this world, if there is an official, there is a director, there is a manager, there is a secretary. If you go on like a government thing, there is a minister and above him there is a president. So there are so many controllers. Every one of us, we have some controlling ability. We have small domain which we can control. A father can control, in his family affairs. An officer can control his subordinates, and the president can control his country. So there are so many controllers. But what is the definition of Krishna? Who is God? He says Ishvara Paramaha. That means he is the supreme controller. Ishvara Paramaha. And who is the supreme controller? Very clearly in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Brahma Samhita, written by Lord Brahma, the first created being, he says Ishvara Parama Krishna. He says Krishna is the supreme controller. And what is his position? What is his form? He talks about his form, the form of God. A lot of people say sometimes, God is formless, he's just some divine energy and this and that, which is true. God has a divine energy which is formless, just like the sun and sunlight. That sunlight is formless, it is spread all over. At the same time, there is a sun also, it has its form. In the same way, Krishna is not formless. Though he has formless energy, he is not formless. Right? If there is form in under his creation, how can he himself not have form? Right? So that definition is given Ishvara Paramakrishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So the definition of Krishna is Vigraha. Vigraha means a form. But what is his form? His form is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, Ananda means full of bliss. So Krishna's body is Satchidananda body, but our body is actually opposite. We look very similar to Krishna because we also have two hands, two legs, and bodily features like Krishna. But Krishna comes in his own original spiritual body. But our material body is unfortunately looks like the spiritual body, but it is made of material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And they are not Satchit Ananda. They are not eternal. Is this body eternal? It's not eternal. It will become old, it will deteriorate, nothing remains. But Krishna's body is eternal. And Krishna could control how old he could look like. It is said, he apparently he grew up right from childhood till he came to Mathura, and he was in Dwarka, and he killed Kamsa. And then at the age of around 16, from 16 onwards, he was looking like 16 years old only. That is another proof. Like there is in the in the Vedic evidences, it is there. You will never find any depiction of Krishna as becoming old, or he has beard, or has gray hair or anything like that. It was said in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna was close to 125 years old. He had great grandchildren by that time, but he was looking exactly like a young 16-year-old boy. Why? Because he had a spiritual body. He doesn't have a material body like us, which is forced to become old. And the scientists are still doing research, and they're trying to find the genes that is causing old age and all these things. Krishna doesn't have that situation. So we are in an imitation body which is similar to Krishna, not that Krishna is one of us. So ours is a material body. It is asat. It is not eternal. And the second qualification of Krishna's body is chit. Chit means full of knowledge. But what is our body? It's full of ignorance. The body we are in actually leads only to complete ignorance. We don't even know how our body works. A simple thing: we eat food, it digests, and we get some energy. But then there is a whole department of biology and medical science, and there is so much research being done how the body breaks down various food components into proteins and nutrients and absorbs, and oxygen is produced in the bones, and from the air. There's so much going on, we still ourselves don't know. Sometimes I recently came across an incident where a person, at some age, he had some health issue, and when he went for diagnosis, it turned out he had only one kidney. So till that time, he was whatever 30 years or so, he didn't even knew that he had only one kidney. And people generally have two kidneys, isn't it? So think of the level of ignorance. We don't know that there is a kidney or liver or pancreas. We don't know what is there, what is not there. We are in so much ignorance. We don't know how anything works in this whole body. And in this own world, we are in total ignorance. We are completely blinded by ignorance. If a child is not well educated from childhood, he knows nothing. He's as good as an animal, right? Like a famous Tarzan movie, right? He was left in the jungle. He was very much like animal. He didn't even know how to speak, human language. He was behaving like animals, right? So that is our situation. We are in total ignorance. But Krishna, His body is full of knowledge. He is completely knowledgeable of everything. So Satchit Ananda. And the third aspect of Krishna's body is Ananda, means full of bliss. What does that mean? If you understand our body, then we can understand the opposite of it is full of bliss. What is our body? It is actually the opposite quality. It is Nirananda. Why Nirananda? Our body actually, if you analyze, it only constantly keeps giving us misery. If you're sitting for a long time, you will get some back pain or a knee pain. If you don't eat, you'll become hungry, you'll become tired, you'll become exhausted. Right? In this way, your body is only a source of misery. One time you don't take proper care of your health, if you're not careful, any part of the body, any inch, any millimeter can create any kind of problem. And even if everything is good, still there is so much medical department, the whole medical science of so many problems, so many health issues, so many medicines, so many hospitals, so many surgeries, from starting from tumors to cancers to unknown diseases of so many, every organ in the body having so many problems. Everyone who is healthy and fine today, there is only a, by God's grace, because any moment, even a one micromillimeter part of the body can go wrong, and it can lead to tumor or cancer or any kind of disaster. And this body is constantly troubling us. Even if one doesn't have severe health issues, from day to day, from morning to evening, the body is a constant source of trouble. And we have to constantly keep working so that it doesn't trouble us. We have to take rest so that it doesn't trouble us next day in the morning with headache and back pain and body pains. We have to sleep. We have to eat so that it functions properly. Right? We have to be healthy. We have to drink healthy. Everything. So this body is actually so much source of misery. That is why it is said Nirananda. That is why this material body, material life is not a good deal. It's a very bad bargain, they say. But Krishna's body is spiritual body. It is Ananda. It is full of bliss. So that is why, though Krishna's body looks very much like ours, and actually our body looks very much like his, because we are the children and he is the father. You know, he is not a common man like any one of us. Then a question could be raised that why are we not having Sachidananda body? If father has a Sachidananda body, why am I having an opposite kind of body? Yes, that is a problem. It is a disease. Just like a very crude example, we are supposed to be healthy in general. But if you're unhealthy, you have some problem, then there's a problem. You go to the doctor and you try to fix it, isn't it? You're supposed to be, at least in general, at a high level, you're supposed to be healthy. You should be able to walk and eat and lie down and run and everything, right? If something is not the normal, that means something is wrong. So our situation is something has gone wrong. Our normal position is to be just like the Father, like Krishna, have a Sachidananda body, but we don't have it now. That means something has gone wrong somewhere. And what is that? Some disease has come over, and that disease is known as Bhavaroga. It is a material disease. The disease of getting stuck in this material world, just like there's an infection, right? Sometimes the infection disease, the whole body, the infection spreads all over the body, and the body is not functioning like a normal body. There is a high temperature, there is a weakness, there is lack of strength. That is not the normal functioning of the body. In the same way, our normal existence is to be in spiritual body, and we are in this diseased condition, which is the material body. And that is why, to solve this disease, unfortunately, a material doctor, there is no regular tablet that can solve this. Only a superior, this is a spiritual disease, a spiritual body that got into a material disease. So it requires a spiritual solution, right? Just like there are specialists. If your problem is in lung, they say you go to the lung specialist, or if you have a problem in the heart, you have to go to the heart specialist, right? So our problem is a spiritual problem. We got a disease and it became material, so we have to go to the spiritual doctor. And that is why the spiritual knowledge is important. And that is why Krishna, out of so much love and compassion, out of so much kindness, he comes and he gives this Bhagavad Gita. He reveals the knowledge with which we can cleanse ourselves from this material disease and regain our original healthy spiritual existence. It is said that we all have actually spiritual bodies also, and this material body is a covering on top of the spiritual body. So we have to get rid of this covering, and we have to regain our original spiritual body. So that is the nature of Krishna. That is the body of Krishna. That is the form of Krishna. So how can, isn't it totally foolish to consider that a person who has a completely spiritual body, who is the original father, who is the original creator, thinking him to be a normal human is totally foolish. And that is what Krishna is saying here. So then the question comes, so how do we understand Krishna? Right? So it is again, uh, the instructions are given by Krishna himself to how to understand him. In the fourth chapter, he says, he gives the instruction, and it is actually common sense. Any knowledge, if you want to understand, you will go to the authorized representative of that knowledge. If somebody wants to become a lawyer, he goes to the law college, isn't it? Somebody wants to become a doctor, he goes to the medical college. In the same way, if someone wants to become, understand the spiritual knowledge, he has to go to a spiritual master. Or just like, medical college, the medical university, and there is a medical professor who will instruct. In the same way, there's a spiritual university. In the spiritual university, you can take guidance under a spiritual master. And what is the spiritual university? The spiritual university is the Guru Shishya Sampradaya, the spiritual. And how is it? We did not make this up. This is common sense. This is how we learn anything. And Krishna also reinforces, re-emphasizes the exact same aspect. He says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshiyo viduhu. This knowledge should be attained in the Guru Shishya parampara. And how should this be attained? He says, Tad Vidhi, that knowledge. How to attain that knowledge? Pranipatena pariprashnena. Pranipatena means to surrender. So Krishna is saying this knowledge to attain, you should do something. The first qualification he's saying is you should surrender. And then pariprashnena. Second thing he's saying is you have to inquire. Prashna means question. Pariprashnena, you have to inquire. You have to surrender and inquire. Pranipatena pariprashnena. And then he's saying one more thing. Sevaya. You have to do service also. You have to serve. Whom you should do, whom you should surrender, whom you should inquire, whom you should do the service. Upadekshanti te gnanam gnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So he's saying you should reach, you should approach a spiritual master. Tattvadarshinaha. Tattva means absolute truth. Darshanaha. Darshanaha means to see, one who has seen the truth. So Krishna is saying that Tadvidhi, to get this knowledge, you have to go to a spiritual master and surrender to him and inquire from him and serve him. See, this is the way of actually in the old original Gurukula system also. It is not that you pay the fees and you sit in the first bench and you don't even pay respect to the teacher. That is not how knowledge is acquired. The original Vedic Gurukula system is you go to this master and you surrender to him and you serve him and you be subordinate to him and then you inquire, then the knowledge will be revealed. Upadekshanti te gnanam gnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So you have to approach a spiritual master. In the Vedic literature also it says, Adau Guru Ashrayam. Adau means, Adi means first. The first thing is Guru Ashrayam. You have to take shelter of a Guru. Adau Guru Ashrayam. The first thing is you have to take shelter of Guru. And then there are other instructions also that say that the first business is to take shelter of a Guru, of a spiritual master. And Krishna himself says that you take shelter of the Guru. Now, who is this Guru? Again, there is, as we talked, there's a spiritual university and spiritual master. Guru Shishya Sampradaya. When you take shelter of a Guru, then you can acquire this knowledge. You serve the Guru, you surrender to him, and then you inquire him, then you can acquire this knowledge. And we have discussed this earlier also in the Hare Krishna movement. We are very fortunate to have the Guru, the spiritual master, Swami Prabhupada, whom we can actually serve, we can surrender, and we can inquire. But one would say, oh, Swami Prabhupada has left in 1977, 43 years ago. How can we receive knowledge from him? And that is the beauty of Prabhupada, because he was so spiritually potent, he was so qualified, he is a pure devotee of the Lord. He actually utilized his potency to be available in his organization. So he made himself available. The spiritual master, once Prabhupada clarified that he said the spiritual master is not a person. See, this is a very profound statement. He said the spiritual master is a principle. See, it's a very interesting thing. He said the spiritual master is not a person, but it is a principle. See, what does a disciple mean? Disciple means one who follows the discipline. So the spiritual master gives the principle and the discipline, and as long as the principle is available, the spiritual master is available. As long as the discipline is available for the disciple to follow, the disciplic succession can continue. So, and then Prabhupada said, this organization is my body. And this says, I will be available through my books, my instructions, and you can follow, you shall follow, and you shall take advantage. So, this is the beauty of Swami Prabhupada. He made himself available in this organization and in his books. And by following his instructions, we can actually surrender to him. How? Very simple. By following his instruction, we surrender to him. And by serving the organization, right? What is Prabhupada's organization all about? The Hare Krishna movement. It's all about spreading this knowledge. It is a preaching mission. Krishna's mission of Bhagavad Gita, the preaching was started by none other than Lord Krishna himself. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita in the battlefield. And then in the end, he said, whoever speaks this is very dear to me. Right? So that is the important aspect, to accept Krishna and to accept a spiritual master, and by as per the instructions of Krishna himself. And here in the Hare Krishna movement, we can serve the spiritual master Swami Prabhupada by following his instructions, by serving his mission, the missionary activities at the temple. It could be as simple as doing any simple service, or any activity. We are actually serving the spiritual master. And when we are reading his books, where our inquiries that we have, when we read his books, they will all be answered. Sometimes once a letter was written to Prabhupada, sometimes when we read your books, we have questions, how do we get answered? Prabhupada said, all the answers are already in my books, you just have to read again. And it's a very practical experience of many, many devotees who have said when they had questions, they continued reading and they read again and they would get the answers as if exactly it was being answered. So that is the way of understanding the knowledge. And then there is the aspect of different devatas, right? So sometimes say, oh, why only Krishna is God? Why not other gods and all the things? Krishna actually, it is not that all other gods have to be disrespected, or they have not to be considered. Actually, Krishna very clearly says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapsam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. And actually, all the devatas, he says that they're all his subordinates. All the demigods, they're all working under Krishna. So there is absolutely no question of disrespecting other gods. All respect has to be given, but with a proper understanding that they are not the God, they are not the supreme God, but they are the subordinate administrators of this universe who are working under Krishna to manage this creation. See, if Krishna is the supreme Lord, he won't personally do everything. Right? Prabhupada gives an example of a big owner of a big factory. He will actually sit in his cabin, and he will just direct so many of his subordinates. He has so many agents who will work. In the same way, all these demigods, the devatas, are different agents of the supreme Lord, taking care of different departments of this material manifestation. Like Indra is in charge of the rains, Varuna is in charge of the ocean, Surya is in charge of the sun, the fire. There's different elements, there are different demigods, different devatas in charge of different things. So they're all subordinate to the supreme Lord and they're directly working under him. So there can be no question of disrespect, but only respect. And it is said that a devotee, what about devata? He will respect even a small ant. Then when a devotee can respect an ant, why not respect the devatas? There is a story Prabhupada mentions of a hunter, you know, who was very mercilessly killing animals in the forest. His name was Mrugari, and once Narada Muni, he was traveling all over the universe, and he goes and he sees this hunter, and he sees in the forest that he's killing these animals, and he's actually even half killing them, and the animals were in so much pain. He would just kill, So then he would go around and he would find this hunter, he'll ask him, are you the one who is killing these animals? He says, yes. Why are you doing this? He says, oh, that is my profession. This is how I do my living. But then he says, oh, you're so mercilessly killing them. They're going through so much pain. You will incur sin. He says, oh, what is sin? I don't know what is sin. What do you mean? This is what my father taught me and this is what I do. Can you explain what you mean by sin? Then he says, oh, when you cause pain, he explains the law of karma. When you cause pain to another animal, when you kill another animal, you will unfortunately suffer the reaction. Because you cause so much pain to the animal, you will also have to undergo the pain. He says, oh, but this is what we do. This is what we eat. We eat meat. And he explains the meaning of the word mamsaha. He says the meat means mamsa. Mamsaha means, the Sanskrit meaning is mam means me, saha means kill. that you kill me. That means when you kill an animal, that means you are giving it a right for it to kill you in the next life. And very interestingly, the English word also, the word meat is also, it sounds very similar. It's me eat, right? Mam saha, like me, you kill me. And it says me eat. That means you can eat me in the next life. It's the exact same thing. It's very surprising how it corroborated with the Sanskrit word. So he explains the meaning that when you kill an animal, you'll be forced to take a birth to be killed by that animal as its food again. Oh, then he was totally shocked. That means all these animals I've killed, I've eaten. Is it that I have to suffer for all this? He says, yes, unfortunately, you have to. Then the hunter was panicked. I didn't knew this. I don't want all this suffering. I was just doing this as a profession. What can I do? Then he says, immediately you give up this profession because this is the most dangerous thing to do because you're putting yourself in so much trouble. So many lifetimes you'll have to go through being suffering by being killed by these animals. Then he says, then what should I do? He says, give up this profession. Then he says, well, how will I live? How will I have me and my wife? How is our livelihood going to happen? He said, don't worry, you sit next to this Ganges, you make a small cottage and worship this Tulsi plant, and I will send you food, don't worry, he says. And then he immediately goes to his home, he tells his wife, and he gives up all this. And they take up, and he asks him to chant the holy name. He gives him the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, like the Hare Krishna mantra. And he says, you just chant the holy name and you worship Tulsi, I will take care of you. And then what happens slowly once he does that, the news has spread that the hunter, suddenly became a saintly person. And it was, Vedic culture, when there is a saintly person, people would go and they would meet him, and they would offer some, gifts. When they go to see a saintly person, they would take some rice, grains, some vegetables, some fruits. So like this, the supply was coming from the village, and he was living very comfortably. And then once Narada Muni was traveling with his friend, another Rishi, Parvata Muni, and he says, okay, here there is one of my devotee, a disciple, is here. Let's go and meet him. He says, oh, is it? What is he doing here in the forest? He says, oh, he was a hunter. I have asked him to stop being a hunter, and I asked him to become a nice devotee. Then the Parvat Muni becomes interested. Oh, is it a hunter? Become a devotee? Let's go and see. So when they both go, and the Mragari, he sees Narada Muni and Parvat Muni coming from a very far away. It is the etiquette of the disciple to receive the spiritual master from a distance, not wait till they come to the door. So he immediately goes to receive them, but then while he's coming, he's jumping. Here, there, he's not walking properly. And he goes, finally, he pays obeisances to Narada Muni, pays respect to him. And he gets up. And this Parvata Muni becomes curious. He asks him, why are you jumping like this? When you were coming, why are you running like this? He says, oh, no, there are some ants. And, I was very careful to not stamp on them and kill them because, I don't want to hurt anybody. So, Prabhupada gives this example from the Puranas to say that a devotee, a hunter who was killing animals, he becomes so, compassionate that even an ant he doesn't want to kill. Why? Because he has all respect for an ant. And as we discussed, Krishna is the Supreme Father. That means the ant or a human or an animal or a cow or a goat, they're all living, we're all living beings, we're all children of the same Lord. And because based on our karma, we get different bodies. So how can the father be happy if I am killing another of the child? Just because the child, it has an ant body or a goat body, does the Prabhupada gives example, can an intelligent son go and tell the father, this son is very dumb, not very intelligent, can I just kill him? Will the father agree? He says, no, let him live at my cost. What is your problem? Right? So in the same way, how can the father tolerate if one child is killing other child? Right? So that is why the devotees, they give all respect even to the ants. So why not respect to the other gods? We have to definitely respect all the devatas, all gods, but we have to respect them with the proper understanding that they are not the supreme Lord, but they are very confidential servants of the Lord. They are serving the Lord, so we have to give them their due respect. And we also have to understand that the demigods, they are actually designations. They are different roles, like Minister of Health, Minister of Energy, Minister of Education. So like this, all these are different roles. Anybody can actually take up the role of Indra or Surya by performing a lot of yagnas and pious activity. One can be actually promoted to that position. So that understanding is also important. Or else again, not having proper understanding of Krishna, Krishna says that we are nothing but we are only fools. So, so I would like to conclude here that we have to get this clear understanding, and there is so much more to know. And the easiest way to know about Krishna is to learn from himself. He's speaking in Bhagavad Gita, but understand him under the guidance of a spiritual master. Just like, if you want to become a medical man, you have to go to a medical university under guidance of a authorized medical professor. You can study and you become. So this spiritual knowledge is available. It is very widely available. It is like open secret. Why open secret? It is openly available, but it is a secret. If you don't get it the right way, you might never get it. So we have to take guidance under a spiritual master, and like Swami Prabhupada here, and understand this knowledge, and advance our understanding, get the better understanding of Krishna, and just understanding Krishna, one can actually be liberated. Krishna says, actually, earlier chapter, he says, Janma karma chave divyam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanmaneti mameti kaunteya. So he says, Janma karma chave divyam. See, Krishna's Janma and karma are not normal, they're divyam, they're divine. Our Janma and our karma are normal, they, because based on some past karma we are taking birth, but Krishna's appearance is not based on that. It is divine appearance. There is a reason he comes to paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha duskritam, to deliver the pious people, and dharma samsthapanarthaya, to vanquish the demons, and dharma, to establish the real dharma. What is the real dharma? The real dharma is to understand the purpose of human life, to understand God, and to make a solution of this material existence, which is nothing but repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. And the solution is to attain mukti, go back to Godhead, go back to our original Father. On this Father's Day, there is a message from our Supreme Father in Bhagavad Gita. And it is said this Bhagavad Gita is actually a message from Krishna, the Supreme Father, that, oh, all my children, you're all lost in this material world. Please come back to me. So let's take this message of the Supreme Father seriously and see what we can do to go back to Krishna. Our Father is waiting. Right? Krishna is in the Goloka Vrindavan. We are in this material world. He's coming time and again, and he's calling us, come back to me. Just like a child has done something wrong, he's stuck in the prison. The father once in a while comes and tries to give some good guidance to the child. Now you do this. They said they will relieve you from the prison. Please behave properly. And the father is going out of the prison and waiting for the son. Right? So in that way, we're all stuck in this prison house of this material existence. So we should all take the message of our Supreme Father very seriously, and try to go back to Him. He is the supreme, loving, kind, compassionate Father. The compassionate, loving relationship we are all looking in this whole world is available only with our Supreme Father and Supreme Mother, Radha and Krishna, or Sita, Rama, or Lakshmi Narayana, whatever, various expansions of the Lord. They are our real parents, and the real love is available over there, and real, joy and happiness in service is available there. Here, whatever service we do, unfortunately, it all boils down to a total, unhappy situation. There is never a happy ending, unfortunately, in this material world. Everything ends and leads to unhappiness. So we should all work towards going back to our original Father. And in this Kali Yuga, the process is very simple. It's just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And while we are chanting, that is the positive, and by avoiding negative. Avoiding negatives is to follow the four regulative principles. What are the four regulative principles? No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit relationships, because they are sinful activities. Like that hunter was all panicked. By doing sinful activity, how can we go to Krishna? Right? If we do criminal activity, how can we come out of prison? We can only come out of prison if we stop doing criminal activity. Right? So chanting Hare Krishna and following the four regulative principles is the sure way of success to go back to our original Father. So I'll stop here. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada.